I'm Miguel Villagran, talking from Dublin, Ireland. I am Spanish. I came to Ireland 8 years ago as an entrepreneur. I started a limited company here in Ireland, focusing give support to Spanish entrepreneurs and other entrepreneurs from Europe. I take part of this project with the support by European Union, focusing entrepreneurs from Turkey. I will talk about risk analysis is my speech today. I hope my speech help to you and all the participants in how to identify risks and how to proceed in case you have a problem or an issue in your business. I suppose all of the participants are entrepreneurs and starting the business, and I hope my speech help to you to do better and with have a good success in your job and in your company. Okay, as you can see, is the participant and the title of the program, and I start with the content. The module is module 7, risk analysis. It's part of European project Euro-FEM, co-financed by the EU. Beneficiaries is 20 female entrepreneurs owner of Turkish SME. My company is Helping Network in Ireland, focusing support to entrepreneurs. My name is Miguel Villarreal Luna. We have a site, and also if you need more information about the speech or the PowerPoint, you can send an email to this email and visit our site. First of my speech, I want to talk about some figures about with the Global Entrepreneurs Monitor. It's the global report from 2019 and 2020. It's a study about a report about some details about the entrepreneurs. Are the entrepreneurs born or made? Access by entrepreneurs to a knowledgeable and motivated network of other entrepreneurs is an important promoting factor for the spirit of entrepreneurship. It's important to access a network, okay? Silicon Valley and other high-profile innovation hubs have greatly benefited from this motivated knowledge brokering dynamic. It's an example, no? High-profile innovation hubs. Silicon Valley, all the people know about Silicon Valley, and the best one of the characteristics of Silicon Valley is because can help to have a good network to do business. Is one of the most important things for an entrepreneur. The 2019 Young Research found that the proportion of adults knowing someone who had started their own business in the past 2 years varies considerably between countries. For example, less than 1 in 5 Japan to more than 4 out of 5 in Saudi Arabia. It depends on the country, the culture, the environment for entrepreneurship is different. While this global variation in part reflects different prevalence rate for entrepreneurship, it also says something about culture and social norm. What are the global hits of entrepreneurship? Based on GEM research of entrepreneurial framework condition, business condition can be difficult in many Latin American, Caribbean economies Yet there is clear evidence that entrepreneurial activity is high. Okay, depends of your country of origin. You will have more difficulties or more support from the government to start a business. This may seem paradoxical, but could be due to factors such as social and cultural norms, the lack of alternative income opportunities, and the extent of competition, as well as a rapid growth in the economies. A good indicator of the health of entrepreneurship is in an economy is the level of established business ownership. This is a good indicator to know if the country is a good country to start a company. For example, 2% or less of adults are established business owners in Puerto Rico, Egypt, Mexico, Oman. In this country, less than 2%, okay? We want to compare this percentage of the following countries with other countries, not with a high percent, 20% in Madagascar, 16 in Brazil, 15 in Guatemala, 14 in Ecuador, 14 in Greece. In relation to the participants, because are female, women are taking a stronger and more robust role in some economies, though they still lag significantly behind. While a greater proportion of men than women typically engage in tea overall, in GEM 2019, there are 3 economies in which the female rate exceeds the male rate: Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Madagascar. In these cases, female, the rate is higher than the male rate. Gender and entrepreneurial activity. Female rates are highest in the same 2 countries, although their position were reversed, with Ecuador at 34 and Chile at 32. This is an example in South America. The Latin American and Caribbean region has the 5 highest rate of early stage female entrepreneurship in the sample. The level of early stage entrepreneurial activity exceeds 10% of the female adult population in 20 of the 15 economies in GEM 2019. While there is a positive correlation between male and female level of early stage entrepreneurial activity, and while most countries continue to have male levels of entrepreneurial activity more than that of female. In 2019, there are 3 GEM participating economies where the female rate exceeds the male rate, we say before: Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Madagascar. Now we start the risk management speech. Specific, this is the module. What is the risk? Risk is the possibility of suffering an economic loss in the development of any type of business activity, which in theory supposes a financial gain or profit. Okay, the risk is one of the most important things in a small company. I can talk about my own experience. And sometimes we start a company without, or an idea, without to take care about the possible risk. And now I am confused that it's necessary to have a good plan in case you suffer different kind of risk you can find when you can have when you start a small business. In conclusion, the risk is a permanent phenomenon of all business. Okay, the most recently risk that nobody knows was the COVID. The COVID is a risk, but it was impossible for the business to think about the COVID because it's new for all, and change the economy, change the rules, and this is a case of risk. Very we must consider some of the following elements that influence from the moment of creating a company. For example, this is important when you are starting or you are in the beginning of to create a company. The selection of the business sector, the service product to commercialize, the sort of investment funding, the personal selection in your startup or business, the selection of the provider or supplier, and the selection of our clients. You must take care about taking consideration your target, your future customer or client. The selection of the business sector. Okay, this is important because, okay, we will have an idea of our business. I don't know, it's possible in agriculture, in relation to a small business like a shop, retail, or industry. Is you need to have an idea, a clear idea, what is your business sector in your future business. The service product to commercialize. Okay, when you have an idea, you have your product or your service. It's very important to have a clear idea what your company offer to the customer. The sort of investment funding is one of the most important things, because when you start a business, it's possible you have your own funding, or from your family or friends, sometimes from the financial institution, or sometimes from the government. And you need to know, you must know, or you have a clear idea where your incomes will come. Personal selection. Okay, at the beginning it's possible when you start a business, you work alone or with not too much people, but if your business start to grow, you will need a good HR department to take to hire people, and this is one of the most important things in a small company. You must to find the right person or the right workers for your business. If you don't do properly, it's possible a risk. You could have a problem with if you don't do a correct hire selection process. The selection of the provider or supplier. Okay, is and now is very important. No, we see that the COVID situation have a direct impact in the economy, and one of the problems was the provider, because now, for example, in Ireland, we have a problem to receive suppliers from different countries because, okay, it's two factors. In our case, is UK. UK leave the European Union and have a different rules to trade in the border between Ireland and UK, and also the COVID have impact in the export and import, and this is a possible risk. You need to know you need to know where is your provider or supplier, and to know if there is a new situation like COVID. How can impact in your product or service. The election of our clients or customers. Okay, we have a product or service. We are a startup and we define our product or service, but we first, the second step is to know who buy my product or service. My target is very important, because if I don't have a good target, or I have a mistake in the election of the customer or client, the company will affect for this decision. Considering the behavior of the enterprise markets, we can conclude that the risk is a combination that uncertain events can occur and affect a project directly. Uncertain events. This combination can have a positive or negative effect on project objectives. Risk is divided into three fundamental elements. The occasion. This element outlines the incident, how it may happen, for example, the denial of a bank loan. You can go to the bank to ask for a loan, and this two situations is possible. The bank accept your application, or the bank refuse and say no, it's not approved. No loan. It's a risk when you go to the bank. You don't know if it's possible or not receive a loan, and if you don't receive a loan, it will have a direct impact in your project. The effect of this element reflects the seriousness of the incident, so the level of impact in the goals of the business. For example, the company is in danger of going bankrupt because do not have money to buy paid provider. It's in relation to the situation before. If you need the money to pay your provider or supplier, and you don't receive the loan from the bank, at this moment you have a high risk, and you can go into bankrupt because you don't have money. And then it's very important the effect that could have this risk in your business. No money, no cash is one of the most important risks for the small companies, and bigger. But the small company, if you don't have cash, the business possible go very fast. The probability. The company must have an organized financial area, so it needs a projected cash flow that allows them to visualize the financial situation of the business in the short, medium, and long term. We suppose at the beginning you also have a financial plan in case you receive or you have a problem with the bank. For example, you don't receive the loan. The financial department of your company, or you as a owner, must have a good financial plan in case you don't have the loan. Types of risk. Technical, timeline, sustainability, cost, and schedule. Technical. Technical is directly in relationship with the performance capacity of the business. It's more related the device you have or hardware you have to do the business. Timeline. This type of risk is not necessarily under the manager's control. In this case, the final decision could be taken by the owners or executive with higher level in the company. Sustainability. The objective is to achieve sustainability in all areas of the company. And now is the green economy. Cost. The entrepreneur must be able to evaluate the financial cost of the risk linked directly with the cost of the business idea. Schedule. It is necessary to have control of the timeline in order to carry out the organization, planification, and execution of the business. So we need to work with a deadline to fulfill the goals. Evaluation of risk. The business projection risk management must be viewed from two perspectives. Short term, it consists of dealing with the immediate business objectives and goals. For example, weekly, monthly production targets. Long term. This means that you need to plan cautiously and identify the potential risks in your business. If you understand the risks, you can make plans to deal with them. However, risk management does not stop there. Evaluation of risk. From our experience, we think that you need to analyze the following 6-step approach to risk business. Plan risk management. Identify risk. Qualify risk. Quantify risk. Plan risk response. And risk monitoring. Plan risk management. The first step in the risk business process is to establish a risk business plan. This plan should describe risk, probability, and contingency. The plan should include a risk breakdown structure that details the broad categories of risks in your business, for example, customer, providers, and supplier, and market. Finally, your plan should include the risk budget, the funds available, the cash flow projection. Plan risk management details. Risk management planning is the key to establishing a common understanding of the project key parameter metrics. The sensitivity of those parameters, management risk tolerance, as well as establishing the practical aspects of how the process will work and how the result will be documented and reported. The program manager and a small cadre of the project members can best perform this plan activity. In the planning process, the key program evaluation criteria need to be agreed to and established. They can be categorized into various impact areas: business performance, product capability, schedule, etc. Once the key parameters are established, the impact of each should be developed. For instance, if a key parameter is weight, then the sensitivity of weight to the product should be established. Stated another way, if a risk event becomes a reality and will increase the weight of the product by 1 kilo, will that have a small, medium, or large impact of the product program? Establishing the high, medium, and low impact values for each parameter provides a common viewpoint for all team members to use as they consider a risk. Similarly, the overall risk sensitivity of the project should be established. This can be done by determining how the likelihood probability of a risk event occurring is defined. Is the likelihood of an event considering high if it has a 50% chance of occurring, low, medium? The characterization of a likelihood as high, medium, low will vary widely across various industries, companies within an industry, and even among various projects within a company. Identify risk. The business woman should carefully examine a business document, including the business plan, briefing, and the scope of work to determine possible risks. The technique we recommend for risk identification is to consult a risk assessor specialized in business enterprise and get them to assess your business. Feedback from this advisor will provide you with objective information. Risk identification is the next step in the process, and it forms the basis for all the future activities. This is the step where the hard work of drawing out concerns, frustration, and risk must occur. It is an activity worth spending considerable time to complete. During this step, the program manager has to work hard to control his/her emotion and let everyone have their say. Program manager may feel as they are under attack or be simply overwhelmed with the magnitude of the risk being identified. One has to maintain a view that developing a plan to handle this risk now is easier than waiting until late in the program and have a totally unexpected gotcha arise. The appropriate timing for an initial risk identification session can be somewhat tricky to determine, but it should be held early, soon after the basic program requirements, milestone date, etc. have been outlined, but before the budget and business case are baseline. Done properly, the risk identification session should identify areas that require additional effort, money, time, etc., impacting the business case budget. Risk identification sessions should be held as a separate meeting with a cross-functional group of variety experience level. By mixing up the function and the experience level, the widest array of ideas will be identified. This session will also help the team member understand how the various functions fit together, the impact of the interface, and help to develop a common language for the project. This common language is vital in science. Problems often develop simple because two individual groups do not understand meaning of the other words. As part of establishing a common language, the process works best if all the risk items identified are documented in a common fashion, such as if something good bad occurs, then the TBD program objective will have something good bad happen. A risk event might read like, if the price of unobtainium increase by 20%, then the total cost of the product will increase by 10%. It is important to ensure the so what of a risk event occurring is understood. Too often, people will just state a risk like, there is a risk the price of unobtainium will go up. This is a first step, but all need to understand the resulting consequence. The best approach is to start a risk identification meeting by defining risk in very common words. Example, a risk is something that keeps you awake at night. A risk is what makes you nervous and uncomfortable about the project. Do not just receive the PMBOK guide definition of risks. Running the risk identification meeting as a brainstorming session is an effective technique. Have each individual privately document the risks they identify on separate post-it notes. After a period of quiet time, this should each be read aloud to the group, allowing the author to address any question about the risk item. Allow one risk item per turn to keep all the team members engaged, preventing one person from dominating the discussion. Particular list, lesson learned databases, individual interviews, etc. are also useful tools to help identify risks and often function as thought starters. In all cases, it is vital to have an ongoing risk identification process. This ongoing process should include holding risk identification sessions at various points through the project, especially as a new project phase is begun. Providing a risk ID form to all the team's members is also helpful for gathering input between risk meetings. Qualify risk. Risk qualification is based on probability and impact. Probability is the chance of something occurring and can be measured as a percentage. For example, the probability of that something will happen is often ranked on a 0 to 1 scale, 0.4 equating to a 40% probability if the event occurring. Qualifying risk involves three components or sub-steps. Filtering the risk to determine if it actually is a risk and when it is likely to occur during the project life cycle. Determining the probability that a risk event will occur and prioritizing the risk. Risk filtering. One analysis is developed, each risk is filtered to determine whether it is within project scope, if it is likely to occur, what is significant is, when it might occur within the project life cycle, and even if it is a real risk. It is not uncommon to identify a potential risk only to decide after careful deliberation that this is not a risk at all, or if it is a risk, that the consequences of the impasse are so small as to not be a concern. The best method for assessing risk is through a process of filtering, as the one shown in Exhibit 7.5. It is important not to prioritize risk at this stage. At this point of the analysis, the objective is to determine risk characteristics. Many times, a perceived risk is often not a risk when measured against the project scope. If the action generating the perceived risk is not within the scope, then it is not a risk and can be ignored. Filtering the list developed during the risk identification result in a final or revised risk list. The next step is to determine the probability of risk event occurrence. Whenever possible, it is better to assign a percentage probability to the risk. This is because the next step of the risk analysis process is to quantify the risk or measure the relative importance of one risk over another. It is not always possible to assign a percentage probability when you lack historical data or experience. In those cases, the best that can be done is to assign a low, medium, or high probability of risk. Even in this case, a range of numerical values may be possible, as shown in Exhibit 7C. Even taking the middle of the range or be pessimistic at taking the high end of the range provides a numerical result for a better comparison. The importance of assigning a percentage probability to the risk will become clear in the discussion of quantifying risk. The risk filtering step should result in a revised list of risks that accurately represent the most likely risk event to expect during a project's life cycle. Although it is important to identify potential risks, it is absolutely crucial to prioritize them. One serious mistake project managers make is to attempt to manage all risks on the revised list. Fortunately, that is not necessary because the reality is that we can manage about 10 risks at a time. Hence, for greater efficiency and effectiveness, a list of the top 10 risks should be actively managed with a watch list of reminders to replace those that are mitigated, controlled, or eliminated, or that don't materialize. One of the best and easy ways of prioritizing risk is with some form of a comparative ranking method. Quantify risk. A quantitative analysis quantifies the possible outcomes and the probability of achieving the specific objective or goals. It also allows you to calculate contingency reserve. Quantify risk detail. Although quantitative risk analysis is broadly used, whether enough data are available, the risk assessment can be performed through a quantitative risk analysis. Main advantages of a quantitative approach are: determine the probability of achieving a specific project objective, quantify the risk exposure for the project, and determine the size of cost and schedule contingency that may be needed. Identify risks requiring most attention but quantify the relative contribution to project risk. Identify realistic and achievable cost, schedule, or scope targets. Quantify risk detail. The quantitative approach requires the definition of the probabilistic value of each single risk factor occurrence, the quantitative definition of the potential impact. Quantitative assessment is particularly used to forecast potential project schedule and cost result listing the associated confidence level for each potential value of the considered value. The result is to describe in terms of a probabilistic distribution the potential values of a given variable, impact areas. Whether more accurate data are not available, a triangular distribution may be adopted. This requiring only the quantification of the minimum, most likely, and maximum value that the variable may take. Plan risk response. Eliminate the risk. Choose an alternative, for example, lower risk. Deflect. Pass on the result of the risk to a third party, for example, the insurers. Reduce risk. This implies taking action to reduce either the impact or probability of a risk, or both. Accept risk. Decide to accept the risk without taking any action. The risk is simply noted and documented. Active acceptance involves creating a contingency plan, reset budget, and retroactive management plans. Plan risk response detail. The risk response planning involves determining ways to reduce or eliminate any threats to the project, and also the opportunities to increase their impact. Project managers should work to eliminate the threat before they occur. Similarly, the project manager should work to ensure that opportunities occur. Likewise, the project manager is also responsible to decrease the probability and impact of threats and increase the probability and impact of opportunities. For the threats that cannot be mitigated, the project manager needs to have a robust contingency plan and also a response plan if contingencies do not work. It is not required to eliminate all the risks of the project due to resource and time constraints. A project manager should review risk throughout the project. Planning for a risk is iterative. Quality risk, quantitative risk, and risk response planning do not end once you begin work on the project. Plan risk response detail. Risk response strategies. The choice of response strategy for threats includes avoid, focus on eliminating the cause and thus eliminating the threat. Mitigate. There are certain risks that cannot be eliminated. However, their impact can be reduced. This is termed as mitigation of risk. Transfer. Transfers the risk to some other party. Insurance purchases, warranties, etc. are examples of risk transfer. The choice of response strategy for opportunities include exploit, award, or change the project to make sure the opportunity occurs. Enhance, increase the probability and positive impact of risk event, and share, allocate ownership of opportunity to a third party. Plan risk response detail. A response strategy for both threats and opportunities. Accept. Passive acceptance leave action to be determined as needed. In case of a risk event, active acceptance may involve contingency plans to be implemented if risks occur and allocation of time and cost reserved to the project. A decision to accept risk must be communicated to stakeholders. Escalate. Risks which cannot be monitored and handled by the project are escalated to the upper level, for example, to program management. Plan risk response detail. Whenever the project manager is responding to threats or opportunities, execution of a strategy must be time-bound. Effort selected must be appropriate to the severity of the risk. A single response can be an act of multiple risk events. A strategy can be selected not only by the project manager, but also by the team, the stakeholders, and experts. Output of a plan risk response. Risk register, project management plans, and project documents need to be updated as outputs of plan risk response. Project management plan updates. Project management plan can be updated by new work activities package that could be edited, removed, or assigned to different resources. thus making planning an iterative process. Strategies for dealing with positive risks, opportunities. Advantage: business take full advantage of a positive event. Share opportunities: working together with another business or partner to take advantage of an opportunity, for example, for a cluster. Strategies for dealing with positive risks, opportunities. Increase the odds. Take a step to increase probability of positive opportunities to benefit the business. Acceptance: note and document any potential opportunities without taking any further action. A strategy for dealing with positive risk opportunities. In the hands-on risk response strategy, you try to increase the chance of a risk happening so you can realize the risk. In this case, you try to realize the opportunity. The hands-on risk response strategy is the opposite of the mitigate strategy. For example, let's say you will complete your project in 3 months and the government is about to float a similar project in 2 months. You can bid for a new project if you completed your project in 2 months. This is an opportunity for you. Therefore, you try to compress the schedule with fast tracking to complete the project early, and you can place a bid for the new one. Here, you are using the enhanced risk response strategy because you are only trying to realize the opportunity. This refers to an advantage. Share opportunity. You use the share risk response strategy when you cannot realize the opportunity on your own. So you team up with another company and work together to realize it. For example, suppose that because of a lack of technical capabilities, you cannot bid for a project, but wants the project. Therefore, you team up with another company capable of doing this task and jointly bid for the project. Here, you are using the share risk response strategy because the profit will be shared between both parties. A teaming agreement is an example of share risk response strategy. Let us revisit the key points. Share opportunities. You will use the escalate strategy so top management can handle it if you are not capable of realizing the opportunity. If the opportunity is not very important or you are not very interested in it, you will go for either the enhance or accept risk response strategy. You will choose the exploit risk response strategy if the strategy is too important to miss. If you want to realize the opportunity and you cannot do so your own, you will try the share risk response strategy. Increase the odds. In the exploit, increase the odds risk response strategy, you ensure that the opportunity is realized. Here, you do not try to realize the opportunity. You ensure you realize it. For example, let us consider that your project will be to complete in 3 months. You learn that the government is about to float a similar project in 2 months and you can bid for it if you can complete your project before 2 months. You have an opportunity here if you complete the project ahead of time. You will get a chance to bid for your next project. Now you have to ensure that you realize this opportunity. You take every possible measures to ensure that the project is completed ahead of time, so you can bid for the new project. You bring in new resources, compress the schedule, allow overtime, etc. Asset time. In the asset risk response strategy, you take no action to realize the opportunity. You leave the opportunity as is, and if it happens on its own, you will benefit from it. You use this strategy when the cost of the response is high and there is a low chance of it occurring, or the benefit does not outweigh the effort involved. For example, suppose you may get skilled workers from another project at a low rate if you convince them to join you. However, you don't pursue this matter and instead let them decide whether or not they are interested in your project. You can use this strategy for both types of risk, positive or negative. Risk monitoring. This involves implementing and monitoring your risk management plan. Project risk should be continually monitored in order to respond effectively and to check if any new risks have appeared. If your risk change or your response are not giving results, you may have to reassess and review risk and contingency plan. Risk monitoring. The purpose of risk monitoring is to address how risk will be monitored. This includes verifying compliance with the risk response decision by ensuring that the organization implements the risk response measures and any information security requirements. Determine the ongoing effectiveness of risk response measures and identifies any change that will impact the risk posture. Risk monitoring activities at the various levels of the organization or with other organization entities should be coordinated and communicated. This can include sharing risk assessment results that will have an organization-wide impact to risk response being planned or implemented. The organization should also consider the tools and the technologies that will be needed to facilitate monitoring and the frequency necessary for effective monitoring risk, including the change that will impact response to risk. Risk monitoring activities implement the risk monitoring strategy by gathering information through automated or manual means, alerting or reporting on information relevant to intended purposes for risk monitoring, and providing inputs to ongoing risk assessment and response processes. Depending on risk assumption, constraint, priorities, and tolerance level, the set of risk monitoring practices actually implemented at any one time may differ from what is documented in the risk monitoring strategy. This guidance recommends that organizations consider risk monitoring from an organizational perspective and coordinated monitoring practice across all three tiers to support the achievement of overall risk management goals and avoid potential duplication of implemented monitoring activities. Now I will talk about the case study. Okay, is in relation the business that wholesale and retail, specific for a small business related to a shop or something like that. And I think it's more appropriate for this kind of business that a new entrepreneur start. Whether you are a wholesaler of electrical goods or a retailer of clothing business, we understand the unique risks your business faces every day. You can have this kind of risks: arson and vandalism, burglary and shoplifting, cash rooms and safe, cool storage, emergency procedures, employee theft, escape of water, flammables and explosives, flooding, holds up and violence, key security, lift tracks, long working, loss of power or connectivity, manual handling, noise, passive fire protection, racking and shelving, roll case and scissor lift, road risk, site security, site traffic and deliveries, sleep and trips, to toxic goods waste management. Arson and vandalism. Since your wholesale or retail business is likely to be situated and seen spotted, so that customer can easily find and access the premise. It can be more vulnerable to the risk of criminal damage. Waste, goods, and other items stored outside of your building are often an easy target for arsonists and vandals. Things that don't take the necessary precautions can often come to regret this when a fire started outside, spread inside, and caused widespread destruction. If external storage can be avoided, particularly outside business hours, consider storing the item within a locked metal container, or chain and open and skip to an enclosed lockable one. Burglary and shoplifting. Several reports and surveys highlight how much of a problem shoplifting can be for wholesale and retail businesses, with incidents accounting for 2/3 of all reported crime affecting the sector. Burglary rates have been on the rise, and this could be due to the popularity of online shopping that has meant some businesses now need a standalone warehouse, either in addition to or instead of a physical retail space, and others have had to make additional storeroom space for click and collect purchases. This location can therefore be a very tempting proposition for burglars, and security measures need to be up to the challenge. A good tip is that stock and materials should only ever be brought onto premise when supplies have dwindled, as this reduces the risk of massive loss. Should there be a thief who finds a method to get into and then out with the goods, or a fire. Besides avoiding stockpiling and or removing death-attractive items outside business hours, there should be a full range of complementary security measures that work together to deter and detect thieves and deny, if not deny, access to their target. Cash room and safe. It can be a very good idea to install a room specifically designed for secure storage of cash and change if your business handles significant quantities on a daily basis. This room should then contain safe and designed for storing cash and change. It is important to be aware that not every safe is suitable for every situation. There are various types of safe with a multitude of features to consider, such as the inclusion of a time lock, so the safe can be opened during certain periods of time, or time delay. The door will only open after a pre-programmed period of time. Along signs explaining this, the feature is intended to deter hold-ups. Alternatively or additionally, the safe could have a dual lock, so 2 or more keys combinations are required to open it, with one key combination normally kept off-site by the person firm who collects the deposit cash within the safe. Ideally, cash safe in wholesale and retail premises where various employees may be responsible for moving cash to the safe, regardless of the supplementary feature, should be designed to allow cash and small items to be posted without a key combination. The key combination holder normally being elsewhere. The design of the safe should be such that the level of attack protection around the post opening is to the same level of resistance as the rest of the safe. Example, it is not a weak point. Cold storage. Depending on the stock or material involved in your operation, you may need units that maintain a low temperature to store items that would otherwise perish or deteriorate and become unsellable or unusable. The temperature within this unit needs to be checked on a daily basis and regular maintenance, and inspection carried out to ensure they continue functioning as needed. Where food and drinking or another type of consumable, for example, prescription medicine, must be kept at a particular temperature. Failing to maintain that temperature and not realizing or not taking appropriate action can result in poisoning, which may be an even more expensive outcome than disposal. An additional hazard to consider in on and around cold storage is sleep and trips, which can come about due to leaks or slippery floor surfaces. Where the unit is a working type, there must be safety features that ensure anyone inside can get out, or at least raise an alarm should they be shooting. For the reason, long working should not be permitted where the work involves cold store. Employees working in around the cold storage, for example, stocking the fresh eggs of a food shop, must be provided with appropriate personal protective equipment and clothing to prevent ill effects such as frostbite. Emergency procedures. There are a variety of scenarios that can make it necessary for emergency action and or evacuation to be carried out for health and safety purposes. And in wholesale and retail premises, this can be made more complex by the presence of customers on the site. A sample of such a scenario includes fire, power cuts, medical emergency, entrapment in elevator lift, and release of hazardous substance. Depending on the country your business is based, the key matter relating to emergency procedure should be picked up by your fire risk assessment and health and safety risk assessment and included in the health and safety policy for the premise. Employee theft. Theft by employees can unfortunately be a key issue for wholesalers and retailers. Staff may have access to cash either through transaction with customers or while transferring it to a safe or the bank, as well as alternative exits which might not have as many security features as the public doors. Performing random or regular spot check as laid out within the employment contract and CCTV in staff-only areas can act as a deterrent as well as a way of identifying a culprit if there is suspicion or employee theft. Similarly, counting the cash in and out of register and keeping record of who was many need. Example, by requiring them to log in their unique credential, can put individual off the idea. When developing your security system, however much you trust each of your employees factor in the method that could be used to remove cash and theft attractive items without detection and eliminate the weak points, such as protecting staff-only entrance and exits. Escape of water. Escape of water can be described as water from the main water supply system escaping from a pipe, tank, appliance, etc., into the property. This often takes the form of a burst pipe. In comparison, other forms of water damage can be caused, for instance, river flooding, coastal flooding, surface water flooding, and storm damage. Flammable and explosive. The nature of your stock will play a large part in setting the odds of a fire or explosion within your premise. For example, the propellant gases used in aerosol cans today are often flammable gases, typically a liquefied petroleum gas, which, if accidentally realized inside of a building, have the potential to form an explosive mixture within the air. As well as the propellant, the product in the can may be a flammable liquid. Another type of product to take care with is the oil seeds and oil-based products. Example, vegetable oils, paint, varnishes, as they can have the potential to spontaneously combust. Wherever flammable or explosible products or material are stored or used, hazards that could lead to ignition, such as a rise in temperature, naked flames, and vehicle impact, need to be controlled if not eliminated. The interpretation and application of and compliance with can be complicated, so the relevant risk assessment must be completed by a competent person with appropriate knowledge and relevant experience and training. An added risk to consider in some warehouses is the presence of high-intensity discharge lamps. These lamps can operate at high internal temperatures and pressure, and the bulbs may sometimes short, explosive, or break due to being knocked, leading to hot glass and bulb component failing or being propelled toward people or combustible item. Consequently, if you have high lighting in any part of your premise, the lamps need to have suitable fire-resistant and non-combustible housing, and they shouldn't be in area where they might be prone to the damage. Example from a lift truck. Flooding. Your premise don't necessarily need to be near to a river, canal, or other water source to be affected by flooding. Heavy rain combined with blocked drains and being at the bottom of a slope is just one scenario, while one that should be universally considered is the risk from the premise's own plumbing system. However it's come about, there will be various repercussions if the site is flooded or otherwise damaged by water, including business interruption as a consequence of the premise being inaccessible and other or destruction of stock and equipment. Hold-ups and violence. The types of goods that you have on your premise will make a bit different to your chance of suffering a burglary or hold-up. Money, cigarettes, and jewelry are favored with thieves, but so are small high-tech electronic items such as a smartphone and tablet, particularly the last case item of the newest model. Additionally, although card transactions are only increasing popularity, there is still a huge amount of cash that passes through the retail trade, and within the risk of robbery, hold-ups, and violence to employees. Deterring or halting the progress of a threatening individual should be achieved by a comprehensive security system which, depending on the situation and level of risk, could include the employment or contracting of security guards and other measures. Key security. How many sets of keys are there for your premise? Who holds them? Is it relatively too easy to get duplicates cut? You need to ask yourself some searching questions about the keys and the locks protecting your premise. Stock and cash not only when you're first moving, when the locks need to be changed, but also when a key holder leaves your employment or if there is an incident that highlights vulnerabilities. Assessment of key security should be carried out on a regular basis to remain on top of processes that the staff may have become complaints about, such as locking away keys in a cabinet designed for the purpose when not in use or outside business hours, and change to the security levels needed. Lift trucks. Lift trucks are a common cause of severe injuries in the wholesale and retail sector, usually because they collide with a pedestrian or a structure like a storage ranking, which then collapse, or due to unstable loads falling. In addition to the risk while lift trucks are being operated, their charging of their batteries can pose a number of significant hazards, such as fire, explosion, electrocution, and burns. Long working. Long working should be avoided as much as possible, but we understand that for some rules this is difficult to avoid. Check that your health and safety risk assessment have properly considered the hazard to any employee who do work alone, including delivery drivers and anyone who might be in the premise alone or when there are a very few people around, example, night workers. At the end of a business day, there should be just one person locking up, as they might be a greater risk of attack from thieves, and or if they injure or fall in suddenly, they might be unable to call for help. Be particularly cautious about any young person and children who may work on their own, such as newspaper delivery boys and girls. They can be exposed to a number of significant hazards. Loss of power or connectivity. The rising popularity of contactless payment is accelerating the decline of cash transactions. So much so that some businesses are choosing to only accept payment by card or online transfer. While this does reduce the chance of left and hold ups and probably save time, due to cash handling procedure not being necessary. If access to the internet is lost and the connection becomes weak, or if the power supply to the premise is disrupted, it can be very difficult to continue operating as usual. If there is no back plan, customers are likely to face delay when completing their purchase. It may even be impossible to make transactions, and potential customers might decide to go elsewhere, taking with them a poor impression of the business that reduces the likelihood of a return visit. In addition to payment problems, a loss of power can make it unsafe to be on the premise, due to a lack of lighting, for example, and put the stock at risk of deterioration if it needs to be kept at a specific temperature. Besides the threat of no or a weak connection to the internet, there's also severe threats to consider, such as loss, corruption, or theft or data, or ransomware infection. Manual handling. As the major number and cause of over 7 days injuries in the wholesale and retail industry, it is clear that accidents while handling, lifting, or carrying are something employers in the sector should be keeping tabs on. Injuries due to manual handling, such as back pain, cuts, bruising, and sprain, can come about from movement involved in a motion as simple as shifting a heavy box across a desk, or lifting a work item from a checkout belt. Consequently, having employees who primarily work in customer service, as well as those on the shop floor and in warehouse, should be provided with training to ensure they know how to prevent injuries during manual handling. This training should happen when the employment starts, during introduction training, and be reinforced by refresher training on a regular basis. During training session, employees must be made aware of what appropriate equipment is available and how to use it, so that as much as possible they can avoid manual handling tasks. Noise. Before, during, and after business hour, a warehouse or shop can be a noise environment. Noise doesn't even need to be loud or to have a negative effect on someone's health. Prolonging exposure to the humming from refrigerator system, for example, can cause annoyance, which may lead to an inability to concentrate, difficulty getting the sleep, stress, and high blood pressure, amongst other health problems. Sources of potentially harmful noise, which are commonly found in wholesale and retail premises, including roll cage, checkout machine, air conditioning system, music, human voice, vehicles, and alarms. Passive fire protection. Should a fire start in either your shop or warehouse or any other part of your premise, built-in or retrofitted features need to be in place to slow and limit its spread, so all people have more than enough time to safely evacuate. For this feature to work as effectively as intended, they should be supported by housekeeping, maintenance, and inspection regime. As an example, if a fire starts in the delivery bay is path into the warehouse, shop, or any other area should be prevented by fire-resisting door and smoke held back by appropriate seals around the doors and other openings. If, however, a set of doors have been propped open and in the had to escape, no one closed them. Smoke, heat, embers, and ultimately flames can progress from room to room, reaching combustible goods and explosive substance and causing widespread destruction and putting lives at risk. Ranking and shelving. Ranking in your warehouse need to be fit for purpose of a safe condition, properly installed and well maintained to prevent accidents which can cause serious injuries and even fatalities. Signs such as a note about weight limits and marking lines on the shelf to show the minimum distance from the edge and item can be safely placed at a simple but effective starting point to prevent the structure from becoming unstable or objects falling from it. Racking systems should also be suitable protectors against damage due to the impact from lift trucks, roll cage, and other vehicles or moving objects by the installation of barriers and guards and through effective site traffic management. Roll cage and scissor lift. Fully loaded roll cage can be very heavy, some with capacity of up to 700 kilo, so you don't want one overbalancing and failing on any of your employees. Workers who repetitively load, unload, and maneuver the roll cage, especially up slope, over step, or uneven floor surface, can suffer from musculoskeletal disorders, such as muscle strain, if not properly trained or assisted. Another common cause of injury is trauma of hands, feet, and other parts of the body while assembling, dismantling cage, or moving them alongside a wall or vehicle. Additional risks will be present if roll cages are used at height, for instance, on the tail lift or a delivery lorry during loading or unloading. Where bulky and heavy loads need to be moved, a scissor lift can be a good alternative to roll cage, especially since they remove some of the manual handling hazards. But scissor lift and roll cage need to be factored into workplace transport risk assessment and inspected and maintained as a piece of work equipment, regularly with employees training in their safe use for each unpermitted application. Road risk. Employers are responsible for the health, safety, and welfare of workers, wherever it is they may be, while completing tasks and part of their job role, and so these include delivery drivers and other mobile employees. Failing to comply with this duty can result in prosecution as well as reputational damage. Financial loss and personal absence if one of your workers involved in a road traffic accident while driving for work. The following topics should be considered to manage the risk to workers and other road users while on public roads for business purposes. Awareness of other road users, driving abroad, road condition, road planning, vehicle sustainability. Site security. Employees from underground tunnel holes in walls and the dismantling of external brick walls to run right and simple door and window entries. Thieves have a sort of technique to enter your premise. For the thief, it is a matter of potential reward versus risk. Vulnerable points and features they might target can include shop front doors and glazing, install strong and resistant fixed glass, if not grills and or shutters. Rear and side doors would consider having this door closed with 1.6 mm steel sheet coach bolt to the door and fitted with high bolts. An additional door hinge might be needed to take the extra weight. Electrically operated rear-to-leading bay shutter doors check that the electrical power can be isolated at the end of the day and secured in the off position with a suitable padlock fitted to a lockable isolator winch. Manual doors, not fire assist, check the suitable locks, bolts, or padlocks fitted to at least 2 points, preferably internally. Concertina type doors. Don't rely on a single small lock which came with the door. They are easily forced open. Rear windows, ground floor. If not already protected and no fire escape point, consider installing a steel bar. Rear windows, first floor and higher. This window can be an option for entry if they are accessible from lower roofs or some other way. So you want defense in place, but if they might be used as a means of escape in the event of a fire, only use grills or shutters which can be easily and quickly manually opened from the inside without a key. Floors area occupied by third parties. Don't forget that part of the building used by the other occupants are also potential entry points, particularly if they become unoccupied and or if the division between your part and the other part of the premise is of lightweight construction. Example, timber of plasterboard. Roof and skylight. Thieves don't worry about health and safety legislation and often climb up onto roof because the physical protection may be lighter or even not existing higher up in a building. As much as possible, arrange your security system, such as CCTV and intruder alarms, so they don't exclude the roof. Don't forget, it may not be your building that the thief scale to reach your roof. Site traffic and deliveries. 8 workers in wholesale and retail business were killed in a 5-year period due to colliding with a moving vehicles, making it the second leading cause of workplace fatality in the sector. 11 deaths in the same time period were caused by being struck by moving things, flying, falling objects, and other 7 were due to something collapsing overturning. A significant amount of these incidents will also involve workplace transport through impacting structure, like storage, ranking, or because unstable loads. Sleep and trips. Sleep and trips is the most common kind of accident in the wholesale and retail sector and shared first place with manual handling for over 7 days, injuries affecting employees. Leaks from cold storage, ice on the floor in chiller, spillage and wet floor following cleaning or due to customer coming inside from a rainy weather are a hazard frequently seen in wholesale and retail premises that can cause people to slip and fall. Stock packaging and equipment left on floor are trailing cable, example from vacuum cleaners. Adds the risk of trips into the mist. This incident can be easily avoided by enforcing a housekeeping regime that the employees are instructed about during induction and refresher training. As an example, all workers should know to never leave a spillage unattended and instead wait for assistance from a colleague so there always at least one person present to prevent others accidentally stepping in it. Toxic goods. If your business is involved with the same product and materials on a day-to-day basis, you'll have a good understanding of the property and the hazard that this item presents. This may be more of a challenge if your stock line challenges frequently, but it's equally as important that you are aware of the potential hazard. It's a fact of life that goods get damaged in transit or with being handled or stored. If they contain flammable liquid and or gas, or ingredients that are hazardous to health or harmful to the environment. A damaged item could place employees and customers at risk. Waste management. Used packaging, expired or damaged goods, including food and general waste, must be allowed to build up as it can quickly become a fire and health and safety hazard. Additionally, many wholesalers and retailers receive pressure from customers, legislators, and environment campaigners to reduce the level of waste they generate, as seen by the enforcement of a ban on single-use plastic bags in recent years. A business that is seen as wasteful can face public backlash in the form of boycotts and protests. To avoid reputational damage, as well as control of the associated fire and health and safety hazard, your business should show that it takes the matter of waste reduction and recycling seriously. Ethical commitment can be demonstrated by the establishment of an environmental management system and public pledge to operate and develop sustainable. Okay, this is the last part. We finish the course about the risk analysis. I hope you like the training course and the speech. All the best for your projects in the future. I hope see you again, but with accompanying your business working and trading. This is the most important thing. Many thanks for all.